We'll continue with Ryan Newman, and Ryan drives the number 39 Bass Pro Shops Chevrolet this weekend for Stewart-Haas Racing. He's 10th in points, and he's coming to Daytona. Certainly has won here before. And Ryan, talk about racing here this weekend at the World Center of Racing.
Excited to get back after Daytona, the 500 itself, lead the most laps with our U.S. Army Chevrolet, and excited just the same this week to have Bass Pro Shops in the NRA on our number 39 Stewart-Haas car. And the tandem drafting, something I look forward to, much more so than the way it used to be racing-wise. So we'll see if we can have some fun, put on a good show. Be interesting to see what the weather lets us do here in the next couple of days. Don't know how much track time we're going to get, but either way, I'm sure we can put on a good show for the fans Saturday night.
Okay, we'll take questions. We'll start with Don. Well, actually, we'll start with Ken. Ken's got the mic, then we'll come up here to Don.
In the back, Ryan. Ken Willis, News Journal. Last week, Tony said that after first of all, were you at all surprised by what happened last week with Tony sort of retaliating the way he did at Sears Point? And I think it was in his post in the TV interview where he said he wouldn't care if it was Ryan Newman in front of him, he would have done the same thing. Just your whole reaction to retaliation in that manner and that incident in particular.
I'm not a fan at all of blocking, and if you don't block on an oval, you shouldn't block on a road course. And there's a lot of guys that get in a bad habit of blocking on the road course, especially turn 7 and turn 11 there at Sears Point, Sonoma, Infineon, whatever you want to call it. So it's difficult to be able to work through some of those things when somebody does block in front of you. And however his whole retaliation thing worked out, and that's not for me to talk about or say, but it is frustrating. I had guys that blocked me and let them know about it, and I got turned around myself twice in turn 11. So the blocking part is not cool at all, and it's something that we as drivers have to address and gain a little bit more respect out of each other so that we're not doing that. We can have great racing and great passing there without the blocking.
Let's go Don and then back to Godwin.
Ryan, Don Cobo with Morris News Service. Denny was in here a little while ago, and he said that some of his crew guys or your crew guys walk by and go, "How you doing, teammate?" Does this tandem racing actually mean that you've got 42 potential teammates out there, and do you become friendlier with some people just for these four races than you would any other time?
It's kind of ironic how some of the things work out, because we always talk about how much we work with our teammates, and here a teammate means a lot in the essence that it may not be your true teammate, your shop mate, but it may be a teammate of another team that helps push you or work with you. And we worked with Denny really well in Daytona as well as Talladega, and both times got involved in somebody else's crash. And I texted Denny after we got on the as I was getting on my airplane leaving Talladega. I said, "Let's try it again in Daytona." He's like, "All right." So I mean, it's just you even in saying that, you can try all you want to try to make a plan to do that, and it may not work out. But our cars do work good together, communication wise. We're on top of things, it seems like, in the car. So it's a difficult situation, and something we've had to work through as teams and as drivers and as crew chiefs to work with me being on somebody else's radio frequency or vice versa. But it's something that makes it a lot more interesting for me here coming to race.
How many people will you have on your radio?
How many people will I have? I don't know the exact number. I'm going to say 11. It's not the whole garage.
We'll go Godwin.
And at the same time, you don't have to have somebody else's radio frequency. It just helps. You get somebody that you're working with, it's like a dance partner. You don't need to communicate. You just, even just like body language in dancing, you have body language in the way you're driving the race car, so you have an idea. But it does help to be able to see, the next group of cars or the next two wide group of cars, or if the track's blocked in front of you when you're getting pushed. I think it was here in the 500 that Gordon was pushing me, and I thought he was going to drive me right into the biggest crash in my life, and we ended up missing it. But you know, he couldn't see, so every situation's different, and the extra communication can be a benefit and it can be a hindrance.
Let's go with Godwin, and then up here to Dwight, and then over to Dustin.
Ryan, I actually got two for you and they're completely different questions. First question is, if you factor in, you guys been in race cars since January testing, so we're at the 6-month point. You've got 16 races in the book. You've been out to the West Coast 4 or 5 times. What's the fatigue factor? Maybe not so much for you, but for your race team.
It shouldn't. The fatigue factor shouldn't be there. You know, if we're manned correctly and the guys are doing their job, and you know, we've tore up a couple race cars, but it hasn't been outrageously difficult for us this year. So, and you know it going in what to expect of the schedule and expect of the season, and when the breaks are and when they're not. But you know, the guys, you know, have had to fluctuate their schedule a little bit, you know, on Mondays and sometimes Sundays to do different things so that they can have a little bit of time to themselves sometime on a Thursday morning before they fly out on a Thursday afternoon. So it's kind of up to the crew chief to make sure that they're flexible enough to get the job done and do the things that they need to do to be 100% when they get to the racetrack.
And my other question was, we're trying to just sort of nail down examples of tandem racing in recent years, and the 2008 Daytona 500 comes to mind. Kyle basically, or Kurt basically pushed you around that last couple of laps.
Actually, it was just the back straightaway in the last lap. He pushed me to the length of the straightaway from 2 to 3. But in saying that, Kurt and I actually did work on some of that tandem style drafting and pushing in practice when we tested here with the brand new race cars. Actually, I should say when we tested at Talladega in 07 with the brand new cars. So we had a little bit of experience before we got to the 500 in February, and it all just worked out to be there at the last lap, you know, the last second, and having that experience gave us a little bit more confidence to do what we did. We had done that with other drivers, but we had never done it as teammates before that point.
Go Dwight, and then over here to Dustin.
Dwight Drum, racetake.com. Ryan, I know you take a lot of pride in being having the Army as a sponsorship. I was just over at a Infinite Hero thing where Rusty Wallace was into sponsorship. But the Marines there are all, you know, had all artificial limbs, and I can remember I processed people out of the Army 30 years ago, and they basically threw away people. In other words, if you had any kind of disability, you're gone. And these guys are serving still. Could you have a comment on that?
I know that the Army in particular, has a screening process when they're working with new soldiers. But when they have soldiers that have experience and understand the team commitment and what it is to serve, even having a prosthetic limb, they still allow them to come back. And I think that there's a lot of merit in that. And I've seen it, and you've probably seen it yourself, going to a place like Walter Reed. Those soldiers are literally excited to get back after they get back moving again, or after they get a bionic arm or a prosthetic limb attached to them. They're excited to get back with their team and their command and be a part of the U.S. Army and being part of protecting our freedom. So you're right. It's the mindset has changed a little bit with technology, and back in the day, I'm sure there was people that got pushed to the side, even though they were willing, because of their physical situation. So it's nice to see technology help and tie that mental, physical, emotional strength together for soldiers that want to go back to battle.
Go ahead, Dustin.
Dustin Long, Landmark Newspapers, to your left. You spoke earlier about the blocking issue and kind of suggesting it's as much the drivers to kind of work through. Who's responsible for standing up for that? I mean, you can have a room full of people, not everybody's going to agree. So how do you have to, if there's an issue, how do you convince people?
The best example I can give you is what we dealt with here for our first experience here in Daytona when we were working with the tandem drafting and the speed difference between the cars. There was the most respect I've ever seen out of all drivers in a cup race when it came to not blocking somebody with a run, because you had the opportunity to get that run back. And the racing was good because of that. And that same respect doesn't carry over to road courses. So that's what I guess as a group us drivers have to work on, is to, and I'm sure there were plenty of phone calls and there were plenty of texts and there were plenty of confrontations, whether, good or bad, after that race that, helps us work in that direction. But every time we go to the racetrack, it's a new set of circumstances. It's new, different cars, different tires, different brake packages that we work with to try to make the cars better and faster. And we have to develop, I guess our respect develops last of all of those things.
You specifically mentioned road courses. I think Tony's kind of referred to it other places. Have you seen this at other tracks? And okay, well, that being said, I understand what you're saying about the respect here at Daytona because it was a new thing. The speeds were so great. There's no guarantee if I'm racing you on another track that if you get by that I might not get you back because of all this talk about track position being so critical, about whether it's the arrow push or whatever you want to call it now. So why should there even be any respect? Or how do you get through that mindset, really, in an oval?
There's a fine balance, and like I said, of all the things that we work on, it's probably the last thing and the most underdeveloped thing that we have as a group in our garage is respect when it comes to certain drivers at certain times. Yeah, there are times when I'm blocked at Dover or Charlotte or places like that, and it's much less often than it is the road course. The road course is the most you'll ever get blocked, or blocking is a part of what we do. As a whole, but we as drivers, and you saw, go back to '79 when Donnie ran Cale down. He was blocking of sorts. And you saw what happened because of it. So, but it's every lap is like a last lap. You look at the way our competition is. We race every lap like it's the last lap. There are times when it does slow down a little bit. California, Michigan, big places, Pocono, where you can only do so much. It comes a point where you have to save your race car, save your tires, and save your brakes. But on restarts, especially with the double file restart, it's definitely added to the excitement and definitely added to us drivers having to have a little bit more demand for respect because of the hard racing that we do. We're literally going for everything we possibly can, and if that means somebody else's throat, then that's part of it sometimes. And that going for their throat and ripping their throat out is two different things.
Any other questions for Ron? The one right here. Raise your hand. I will come to you, and then over here to Jorge.
Thank you. Hi, Phil Alloway from FrontTrucks.com. Earlier you were talking about the vision issues that come with the tandem drafting. Is there any conceivable way that they could actually alleviate that? Maybe Lexan spoilers or anything like that?
It's not even so much the spoiler as it is when you're in a car and you got a car in front of you and you're in the banking. It's almost like their roof actually blocks it because you're looking up and out to the left. So. And the way our cars work, the way you draft, typically you draft off the right side of the bumper, not the left side. So that puts you right in the center line of the guy in front of you's car, which blocks, say, 20 degrees left or right. And that's just the way the physics work out with the way the cars draft. So I'm not saying that there's nothing that could be done, but what would be done would probably be more work than it's worth.
Go ahead, Diego.
Diego Mejia, Autosport.com. Ryan, Penske Racing seems to be on an upswing. They've been on many polls, and I'm to your right.
I see it, Amber.
Yeah. And as a former Penske driver, how do you see what they're doing right now? And on the track, is there anything you can tell? Maybe they have hit on something particular that has made them so quick recently?
You'll see swings in teams in every part of in the history